This is Arif Halaby on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.
Hey, welcome to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Jeff Gerard on your place for news, talk, and information. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS. We've talked about a variety of things over time, of course, and in, I don't know, how many years of radio now? 14 and a half, something like that, 14 plus years of radio. We've talked about a variety of things specifically about retirement, right? Because that's what we do. It's retirement. Somebody said something the other day that I thought was kind of, it was kind of nice.
What was it?
Considering everything recently, he said, Arif, I can't believe, because they heard me on the radio, they came in to talk to me, and they said, Arif, I couldn't believe it, and I don't mean any disrespect. I go, oh, what? It's that lead-in that you're just sitting there waiting for the second shoe to drop, right? And they said, when you're on the radio, you sound like you're 30 years old. And then of course you're like, oh, thanks. But then afterwards you say, oh, I must look like I'm old. So that's nice. So you'll hear me say it every once in a while. Oh, I've been doing this business for 22 years. And the reason I share that with you, one, is because I know I sound a little younger on the radio. But two, for people like this gentleman who came in who said, you sound like you're 30 years old. How are you working in this field for 22 years when you're 30, carry the one, and, oh, you started in the fourth grade. Yeah, well, So thanks for joining us as we talk about your family's finances. Specifically today, it's about how it's more difficult. We've got a recent Fox Business article, as well as some Kiplinger and some Forbes we're going to talk about. When we say retirement is getting harder, why do I say that? Because according to a new study released by Go Banking Rates, they find that 42% of Americans, 4 out of 10, will retire, quote, broke, and they will have less than $10,000 saved. Now, what that means is that you're going to count on your Social Security as a primary source of income. In other words, that's going to be your income. You have no plan B. And that's really darn scary if you haven't, thought twice about it, because you have now become an indentured servant to the government. What's the difference between being somebody who paid for your crossing, right? An Irish farmer who says, I'm going to come and work in the New World. And the farmer in the United States says, oh, no problem. You can work on my farm. No problem. But you have to pay back by working for free for 5 years. I'll give you food, shelter, clothing. You're not going to sleep open out in the fields. You're not going to run around naked. You're not going to not eat foods. I need you healthy. If you break your leg, we're going to get it fixed because you need to be working for me. That's health care. Food, shelter, clothing, sustenance paycheck. I didn't say fancy house on the hill, filet mignon, and, Armani suits, because you don't have that. So how are you supposed to retire, call yourself a free person, and end up where the only income that you're going to get is a pension, if you will, from Social Security? And you're the one that worked for 25, 35. We don't even have indentured servitudes anymore. And what's the difference between them and you? You have a car? Ooh. You have a house? Wow. You don't own it. The bank does. So how do we get you into a place so that you're not thinking, oh, I can't wait to retire so that I can be broke and not have to do anything, instead of be broke and have to sit in traffic?
Well, I think the first thing is we have to remember that Social Security is supposed to be part of a three-legged stool at the bare minimum, right? It's supposed to be part of your retirement, not all of your retirement. Don't depend on this to be 100% of your income for retirement. These are all things that start 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. This conversation had to be had a long time ago, but you can still catch it right now. There's still ways to do it, but Social Security can't be 100% of everything in retirement. We've seen it, right? And look at the lifestyles of the people
Difficult.
that are in that. They have one choice. It's nice to have a choice, but it's the only choice they have.
And here's what happens when you and your spouse are taking a Social Security check, and you might say, oh, we can live pretty good on $4,500 a month, $25 from one, $2,000 from the other.
Yep.
We can live pretty nicely until one of you passes away. And then you lose the $2,000 check or the lower, and the only thing you have is the higher one. It's about the better off you are, financially speaking, in other words, both you and your spouse had a great job, the more likely you are to take a 50% pay cut when one of you passes away. Well, you're not going to have 50% less in property taxes.
That's right.
You're not going to have 50% less in electric bill or food. So how do you protect yourself? We have to think about this, guys, because I don't want you to be somebody who goes to work, you live your whole life, you make sure you shop at the grocery store so his kids are going to be fine. You make sure the dry cleaner, boy, her family's going to have a wonderful vacation. Oh, don't worry. The gas station that you go to twice a week, don't worry, they have an amazing, amazing retirement home, vacation home set up. So who worked for you? You're the one that was gone from your family all day long, all week, all year. And you come back and you have a car that gets older and worth less every day. You have a home you're still indebted to the bank. You go, gosh, Arif, I wanted to get some cheery news from you today. This doesn't qualify. Well, it may not. But what it does do, or at least I hope it does, is it gets you to start thinking, because we're going to give you a plan here, some ideas, so that as you get 15 years away from retirement, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, that we are in a position so that you will not be making the same mistakes on purpose. Now, you might, but it's going to be your decision, nobody else's.
Well, Arif, I have a question for you. What about people that don't pay into Social Security? They've got this amazing, amazing government pension.
Yeah, just think about it as that way as well, right? So now you're somebody who says, well, I don't put into Social Security, so I'm not eligible for it. Fine. We had a lady earlier today. She was an independent contractor as a dental hygienist. So she was paid very good money, right? A dental hygienist, you want to be one step below a doctor in the sense of income, but without the responsibilities as a dentist. A hygienist is a really good choice for that. Flexibility, freedom, work choice, where you work, take some time off if you choose to have a family or do other things and then come back around. So but surprise, in most cases, as a hygienist, you generally are an independent contractor. And you are generally not eligible for Social Security of the same. So she received some Social Security, never a pension. Now, you can create your own pension. Did you know that? As an independent contractor, as a 1099, as a small business owner, you could have your own small pension. Now, that's great because you're the one that gets to control it and not some faraway board or something. And I think, Jeff, part of what we see every day is that when people don't put into Social Security, that's great. You save in taxes today. But the responsibility for your retirement flops into your hands and no longer is the responsibility of Social Security, which, by the way, is not a whole lot to talk about anyway, because as you mentioned, really, it's supposed to be about a third of your income. So if your Social Security is $2,000, the government was counting on you bringing in another $4,000, maybe $2,000 from your savings and another $2,000 from some sort of a pension, whether it's from your large employer, from yourself, from somebody. So when the government turns around and they look to see you are in a position to where your Social Security is not only all of your income or a big part of it, you're a liability. The government wants and needs you to not be dependent on it. Now, that's not what some will say. Some want you to be dependent on it. Ask our Obamacare programs. Right? Why give you a choice? Why are freedoms more important? Well, because freedom means you no longer need the people in government. You can take them, you could leave them. Why is it some state legislatures, did you know, in some state legislatures across the country, they only work about 6 or 8 weeks out of the year? Our state legislators, I don't know, 10 months. They're supposed to work 12. They're paid $105,000, $115,000, $130,000 a year. $10,000 a month is what you're paying state legislature. Now, you should be paying them to do less. The more you do, the less you get paid. That's the way it should work. Are you and I walking around going, oh my gosh, I can't wait. They need to pass a bill. This is horrible. Life is horrible. Pass a bill. Because when that happens, they do. Right? It may not be what you like, but then you run for office. But every day, if they don't do something, they don't justify their existence. So they start moving stuff around on a desk. We call it being busy versus being productive. President Trump had it made, man, when he said it. He said, if you're going to pass any new regulations, you need to take away 2. Isn't that cool?
I think
So
so.
since January of 2017, every time they pass a new regulation, they remove one. They remove two. So one goes in, two come out. Because it's so crazy. Oh, clean water. Oh, the Bushes hate water. Or really, then what did Clinton do? Water was fine until the day after President Bush got elected, and then everybody thought, oh, dirty water. Let's change everything. Well, I thought you said clean air and clean water. We were good last year. All of a sudden, it's horrible? President Obama had 8 years. Oh, my gosh, he wants to change the waterways. Well, okay. Now, I admit he's not doing a good job at marketing. We had a client who owns a farm, and they have a farm. Check this out. This is incredible. So he has a farm. When the rain comes down, water gets on the farm. The fields are wet. It runs down a little thing called a creek, and it goes into his little pond. From that little pond, they take water back up when it doesn't rain and put water in the field. And he takes that water that's in the pond and he puts it back into the field. And then, a couple of, I think 4 years ago now, the government came along, federal government, and said, not even through a law, and it said, we are going to pass a law that says, if you have any water on your private property, it is now the government's job to regulate that stream, as if the waterways drop it into the ocean. And so the farmer's like, but I just used the water to water my plants. They said, oh, no, no. You now have to have EPA come out. You now have to have federal waterway officials regulate whether or not, so you can't even pump the water until we get out there 2 weeks from Tuesday. You're like, but I need the water. So those crazy, it's called, I'll get the name of it here in a minute, but it's basically called like the Waterways Act. And the point is, it wasn't like the day before or under President Clinton or President Carter or, the other side of the aisle. It wasn't like it was horrible. But here's a guy who planned on leaving his farm to his family, and now it has so much regulation. Guess who wins? Big business.
Yep.
Because an individual farmer can't afford to pass it on anymore, because he doesn't have a team of lawyers to fight the environmental protection, whatever. So be very careful if your goal is to leave something to your children, whether it be a house or an apartment building, right? You have to be careful with that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I can't get this out of my head, that here we are, we're trying to survive in this world and become more and more independent, yet we have so much bringing us back to the codependency of the government. And I just look at it from the financial aspect of it. The more we can do independently, the more that we can do on our own and get out of partnership with the government. I mean, do we need the government? Yes. Do we need regulation? Yes. Do we need infrastructure? Yes. And do we need to fund that somehow? Yes. But don't have it be that a third or half of your income goes to that. And the ways we can do that is really just making sure that we use the individual retirement plans and the retirement accounts that are out there to help fund that retirement. So we don't have to depend on the one thing in our lives, be it the farm, getting so overly regulated. Now we've painted ourselves into a corner because everything went into one, whether it's the farm, your employer pension plan, because you decided, I'm not going to put anything off to the side. I'm going to let Social Security take care of me. I'm going to depend on my house to be paid off, and then I'm going to sell it. And right? I mean, we hear this time and again that this one thing is the key to a happy retirement, a successful retirement. You fill in the blank. And they're waiting for tomorrow, and sometimes tomorrow never comes.
Well, here's a good example. It was called the Watershed Regulation Act from the EPA, March of 2015. So I think it was passed just before that. It's through President Obama's EPA, through the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. All right, here's where we go with this. The Social Security check that you're going to receive, remember, the government can and does attach wages to it, all the way down to $750 is the current rule. If you owe money on student plus loans or parent loans, or you went back and got your master's degree at age 50 and it's a 20-year loan and you haven't paid it back, the government, you say, and now I'm going to take Social Security, and you're to receive $2,000. The government takes back down to the minimum they still have to leave you with $750.
Wow.
If you didn't pay your Obamacare tax, if you didn't pay for your health insurance, they go into your Social Security. If you owe money to the federal government, they go into your Social Security. They attach the wages with almost no due process. In other words, it's just a one-letter notification. And those letters always, at least from what I've heard, tend to get lost until you get your paycheck or your deposit slip and you go, wait a second, where's my money? So if you are counting on giving everything to one governmental agency, you need to think twice about that, because the options for you mean you are now beholden to them, and the indentured servant of the old days is back. So let's be careful with that. So here are some steps that we need to think about. And before we do, remember this. Remember I said health insurance, right? Make sure you take care of your health insurance in one form or another. Okay, so 5 steps to take 15 years before retirement. Here's how we need to make sure we don't run out of money. And we're going to come back in just a second. I want to get into that. But when we're talking about before retirement, I want you to be independent, because then your decisions are best for you and your family, and not the government and not some social bureaucrat or leftist or right Democrat or Republican. Forget it. Who cares? Put a label on it. It doesn't matter. You have to go back to valuing freedom versus equality, financially speaking. You have to go back to valuing freedom versus being offended. Did you see this? Colleges now have safe spaces.
Yep.
Is that not insane? I mean, is anybody at least privately going, man, this is crazy. I can't believe they're letting us get away with this. Let's just keep going until somebody says no. It's like your kids, can I have chocolate cake for breakfast? Yeah, whatever, son. Can I have chocolate cake for lunch? Yeah, I'm busy. Can I have chocolate cake for... Yes, just go do what you got to do. Until one day you wake up and you have a type 1 diabetic on your hands,
Right.
and a kid who has heart problems at age 17, right? You would say, oh my gosh, where did this happen? How did this happen? Because you've ignored it since they were 2. I had a friend who used to only allow their kids to eat French fries. We'd all go out to eat, and sometimes we would be buying, and we'd buy a nice meal for everybody. The daughter would never touch it. Only eat the French fries. Waste the hamburger, waste the fry, whatever it is, but only eat the French fry. Surprise! At age 14, diabetic. And we actually privately told the parents, but how do you do that? How do you tell a parent, by the way, you're wonderful in everything else that you do. You're an amazing human being, except in this one little part, you probably just got to say, no, eat your veggies. So when are you going to be the disciplined person for you and your family? Well, we have them here. We got steps to take 15 years or so. In fact, some of them you can do 10 years before retirement to make sure you don't run out of money when we come back. You're listening to me, Arif Halaby, and that's Jeff Gerard. On your place for news, talk, and information, this is Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. This is your hometown station, KHTS.
Comfort Keepers provides your loved one with loving in-home care.
Miles McNamara, certified senior advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in-home care.
Our caregivers can help you in your own home, enhancing independence, creating safety and comfort. Our Comfort Keepers provide companionship, meal preparation, medication reminders, assistance with personal care, and even transportation to doctor's appointments. If someone you love can use a helping hand at home, visit comfortkeepers.com.
Or call 287-4200.
Party Homes makes the home buying process a breeze. Come see our 3 new neighborhoods in Santa Clarita, priced from the mid-500s to the high 700s, with options for families and 55-plus active adults. Our newest neighborhood, Cresta, opens March 31st. Design and build the home of your dreams, or choose from professionally designed, move-in-ready homes. Call 661-666-2342 to set up an appointment today.
My favorite restaurant in Santa Clarita? Salt Creek Grill, of course. Great food, neat atmosphere.
For a business lunch or romantic dinner, I'll always go to Salt Creek.
Hi, I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. We have created Salt Creek to provide you with the most comfortable and inviting restaurant in Santa Clarita. Enjoy fresh mesquite grilled fish, aged steaks, and the best chops imaginable. There's entertainment every Friday and Saturday night, and we have the best Sunday brunch in town. Salt Creek is on Town Center Drive in Valencia.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
This is your place for news, talk, and information, your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hey, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. This is Jeff Gerard, your place for news, talk, and information as I try to figure out my headsets. Left goes in the left ear, right into the left. Right. Okay, got it. All right. Hey, listen, we're talking about some things to do, some steps to take, 10, 15 years before retirement. Listen, retirement doesn't mean you just sit in a chair and hope to pass away. Yeah. A client that, as I mentioned, that we had in earlier, as a dental hygienist, she still works 1 or 2 days a week, right? Why do you do that? To stay active, to stay relevant. Remember, we've talked about more important than money is purpose. You have to have a purpose when you retire. If you don't, you end up being somebody who gets to retirement. You might have a boatload of money, but you can't figure out how to help yourself because nobody wants you. I don't mean nobody wants you like they don't love you, but nobody wants you. They don't need you. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody's calling. Nobody's missing you. Right? How sad are those stories when they say, the last time we saw Jimmy was 3 weeks ago. He's been dead for 2.5 of those. Well, nobody thought to look for him sooner?
Yeah, sad.
Right? I mean, that happened. So I don't want that to happen to you. Here's a couple of very interesting statistics. Number one, the average age of a widow. What is it, Jeffrey?
53 years old?
57 now.
57 now. It went up.
57. You want to know something fascinating? We had a lady in the office the other day, and her mom became a widow at 57 for the second time.
Oh.
So I know, she goes, I know what you're thinking, but when I was a child, my dad was a bucking bronc rider, and he got bucked off and he passed away when she was like 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that. So a little baby. So mom remarried sometime later, and then the man was a bit older, and I think smoked, and then passed away at a normal age of 68, as if that's normal, but he had a lot of ailments. So she was a widow for the second time at age 57. Now that marriage lasted, 30 years or something, 25 years. But you still have to think about it, folks. If the average age of a widow is 57, now you don't take all women. That's not how you do the statistics here. You take all women who've had husbands pass away. Because I know you're thinking 74, 82, 79. Well, certainly there are some. But when it comes to being on your own, ladies, if you're 57, that means you're going to have to manage the family's money, your money, for quite a long time on your own. And the two sources of income you expected Social Security-wise, if your husband passes away first, you don't get his and yours. You get one of them. So we have to think twice. How about this, Jeff? Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to, you're talking about averages and whatnot and people living longer. I always look at my aunt, and I know she's the anomaly and she's the outlier in the statistical world. She's going to be 102 this year. And she has been widowed almost all my life, and I'm 41.
Wow.
Right? So these things happen. And luckily, she's had, a wonderful family to help during her retirement, but she's needed to move around and do things, and her housing situation changed not too long after that, and she's still spry and healthy and all that good stuff, but that's a long time to be without a mate.
Wow. Sometimes people are remarry, and sometimes they stay a widow forever or a widower. Part of this is to realize that if you're a male turning 65 years old today, you can be expected to live another 19 years on average. Back in 1970, it was only 11 years. Women can be expected to live another 23 years today if they're 65. So that's 88 years old. Now imagine if you had a career, right? Mm-hmm. You probably had a career for 25 or 30 years. That means you were retired and living and retired about the same amount of time as you were working.
Wow.
Now imagine that you're on a government pension, right? Imagine you're on one of these 55 or 60-year-old pensions, not 65 years old, but 52, 55. And these government pensions, folks, now you're going to live to what? You're 55 years old, you're going to live till 90? You have 35 years? that the city and the county has to pay you and somebody else to do the same job, but you're not working? That's why I'm convinced there's going to be significant pension issues. No question about it. Many of today's retirees now carry debt into retirement, not just mortgages. It used to be mortgages, but before that it wasn't even mortgages. Today, many retirees are carrying mortgages and consumer debt and student loans. And remember what I mentioned, right? As a retiree, we're going to get these things paid off.
Well, and you're talking about student loans. I mean, these plus loans, Parent Plus loans that people are signing. Look, I can tell you from experience, I am hearing more and more grandparents signing student loans, co-signing student loans for their grandkids than parents are for their own kids. And they're carrying that into retirement. So, and who's paying the bill on that one?
That's right. And remember, it's at this current time anyway, you're not allowed to file bankruptcy on these loans.
Right.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, we want to file bankruptcy. We should be able to discharge these. We can't any other debt. Well, that's fine, provided you were having to qualify for the any other debt, just like you had to qualify for student loans. But you didn't. If you could fog a mirror, you got a student loan. You can't go get a $50,000 car loan just by existing.
Right.
I am a citizen. Well, now you can be an illegal alien and still get money. Right? But back then you could be, you had to qualify back in the day for some sort of student loans. But they were saying, well, kids in the ghetto and kids in low-income families and kids in the barrios and all of these terms they were using, they can't qualify. All right. So then what happened? They said, we're going to give everybody a loan. However, they could never discharge it through bankruptcy or let it go through a delinquent debt. We will collect it and the interest and the overdue interest and the payment, and we'll wait till you hit Social Security. We'll take it then. We don't care. We know you're 37 years old and you think we forgot about you. That Social Security number doesn't disappear, folks. And I can promise you this. If you are not going to pay it back and you think you got away with it and you reach age 59 and a half and you have money in your 401k or your IRA, I can promise you they will levy those dollars. They have to. There is no way to pay the $1.2 trillion back. You think it's just going to come from air? You think they're going to say, oh, sorry, you get nothing. Oh, sorry, I guess that's the way. No, folks. You didn't pull one over on anybody. You're not sneaky. Right? All right, how about this one? I love this. The chance of a retiree or an elderly family member requiring some sort of long-term care, 7 out of 10.
That's
70%.
incredible.
Jeff, tell me about this.
Well, this is just, I think this speaks volumes to the longevity that people are facing, right? Yes, you look back at Social Security and when it was created and people could start taking it at, early 60s, people only lived 2 or 3 years, right? This is what retirement was. Like you say, you'd retire a couple years later after you've had enough passes in the rocking chair, you're done, right? And now people are living till their 80s. People are my great grandparents were born in 1914 and 1916. They've since passed, but they lived till their mid 80s.
Wow.
I have other grandparents that are in their 80s right now. This is what is the new retirement. People are living into 80s, 90s. As I mentioned, my aunt, 102. God willing, everything now. What does that cost you to live?
That's right.
It's not like you just got up today and most people woke up and they probably felt great. They didn't have to go see a doctor. They didn't have to really take a bunch of medications. But look at the prescriptions that people are taking nowadays.
And this is incredible to me. If you remember when the big debate, the national debate of Obamacare, this and that, and people were saying once the government is in charge, they're going to cost benefit analysis. They're going to weigh it, and they're going to say sorry. And there will be something called death panels. Remember that? Death panels, which was basically a group of physicians, and we call them squants or squints, people with calculators, CPAs. And they say, well, wait a second. You're 92 years old. You're in otherwise pretty good health. Yeah, you got some this happening and this happening. And you're going to need a minor procedure. We're not going to pay for it. We're not going to approve it. Which would mean ultimately, maybe in some cases, that the procedure would save your life. They're not going to pay for it. Because what, really, 92 years old, how many more years are we going to get out? I can spend $65,000 on that procedure, and maybe you'll get 2 more years. Or I can take that $65,000 to a 30-year-old, and maybe they could get 35 more years. of paying taxes. I mean, of life on this earth.
Yeah.
So what is in the best interest of the government and these death panels? So the debate would happen, and oh my gosh, my friends on the left would scream, that's wrong, that never would happen, that doesn't exist. You are just fear-mongering. Okay, ready? Guess what they're doing now? We started hearing about it last summer. What are we hearing? Well, of course, it's not a death panel. We are just weighing the fiscal options of the review of a blue star panel whose job it is to take a look at the facts. And we just look at the facts. Death panel. I don't know. You can call it something else. Life panel, right? Life insurance used to be death insurance. Nobody bought it, so they changed the name. So maybe it's a life panel. You just don't get it. Sorry. Life goes to the 30-year-old who needs a kidney transplant, not you who needs a new hip. I know, but you've been paying into it, and you bought the insurance, and you paid the money, and yeah, I know, but sorry about that, you know. Anyway, hey, oak or pine? Because what kind of a casket are you looking at?
Yeah.
Did you want brass handles? You want brushed nickel? What are you thinking? Because, you know, I mean, not that anything is going to happen sooner or later, but just sit still so I can get your measurements.
You could always pay for it yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. Why do you think the biggest boom in the health insurance economy has been Mexico, Thailand, the Philippines? Even Great Britain, people say, we want a health insurance plan like Great Britain. A friend of mine is a doctor there, and another friend of mine is a nurse. Okay, here's what they say. The NIH, National Institute of Health. If you go to the public hospitals, which is just like our county hospital, everybody gets coverage. You got coverage. Everybody got health insurance coverage before. Everybody did. You just went into a county hospital. You went into the county ER. You didn't have to pay for it. Even today, you don't have to tell them your real name. Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm going into Henry Mayo or Holy Cross. Hi, what's your name? Joe Dress Shirt. Okay, Joe Dress Shirt. What's your social? I don't remember. Birth date? I don't know. Address? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll call you when we're ready. And you get seen. Mm-hmm. That happens today. It happened last month. It happened 10 years ago. There's nothing changes. But here's the trick. When you are older, you can expect, if you are not covering your own health insurance, a group of anonymous, well-respected, education, published authors of fiscal and medical terminology that have been in the business for 50, they will decide whether or not you get the procedure. Not you. And not your family. I know many of you would give your life savings for another week with your parent if you could get them to come back, right? So be very careful. Healthcare costs have increased at record levels. I told you my health insurance premium, some of you, I said it on the other show over the weekend. My health insurance premiums were $870 pre-Obamacare. You guys have heard these numbers, I think. $870. What was it as in February 1st? $3,200 a month. Arif, you always talk. I wonder why I always do. I am buying a house in 49 of the 50 states every month. We are paying $3,200 a month.
Sheesh. With
no better coverage, in fact, higher deductibles. So you need to cover your own health insurance coverage. Here's what I need you to do. You have to track your own expenses. Track them today. And one of the things you can do, which is kind of interesting, especially if you're in your 40s or 50s, when you get, and you say, I'm going to buy whatever, a necklace, a watch, a car, put in your backyard, fancy pool, whatever. When you're ready to spend those dollars, add a zero at the end. The pool cost me $60,000, add a zero. The necklace cost me $1,000, add a zero. And that's what the impact will be for your retirement in the future. So if you say, I'm going to spend $60,000 for my backyard, and I know that's low for a lot of you because it is a pretty low number today with pools being 80, 90, 100,000, swimming pools. But you say, I'm going to spend 60. The impact to your budget is about 600,000. Oh, Arif, the math. No. It's very simple. You take a financial conversation, really simple. It's math and logic. and we add emotions. Right? When I teach money school, Jeff, we talk about this. I say, you take a bad financial decision and you cover up with God, family, or, quote, the right thing to do. And my conversation with you is over. Not out of disrespect, but because what am I going to do? Oh, I know it's not good to have a pool, but you should disobey God. What? God told me to put in a pool. Oh, okay. Well, then what am I going to say? Math is better than God. Arif, it's time with my family. You don't understand. The kids are growing up. So bad decision, covered up in family. What am I going to say? Forget your family? Of course not. You've made your decision. You're just trying to justify it logically. We do that. All of us do. So when you're doing that and you're looking at a retirement plan, we have to track our expenses. Do it logically. Do it with math, and put the emotion off to the side.
I want to say something here. There are so many studies, and you can scour the internet for what's the right thing to do. Give me some retirement tips. You can type it in. I don't care if it was last year, 5 years ago, or right now. They're the experts, right? They're going to tell you, well, if you plan to live on if you can replace about 70% of your retirement income, you should be okay. And follow a certain withdrawal rate, make sure, all these things, right? These are averages. These are kind of guidelines to follow. Are you telling me that 70% of what you make now is going to be good enough for you 15, 20, 25 years from now? Be very, very careful. And I love that you're bringing up what we're spending today and the impact, Arif, that it has. At a zero, that's probably a modest calculation of what opportunity costs you might have had those dollars been invested or saved or had been earning interest for you versus going against you. You said, well, no, I could have borrowed the money to put in the pool, but I had the money and I thought, you know what, I want to save money on interest. That would have been worth its weight in gold in retirement had that been earning interest and compounding for you over time. Think about that and be careful who you're listening to when it comes to some of these, I'd say, conservative numbers of replacing 70 or even 80% I've heard. Why would you want a pay cut in retirement?
It doesn't make sense unless you were sitting at home. Remember the first 10 years, Tom Hanya is a fantastic author and a speaker for public television. And he talks about the first 10 years is called the go-go years. That means that's the time you're traveling, you're doing things you didn't have time or didn't want to do before. Maybe you were raising children, so you're in that window of time where you're still physically able to do things, you have extra money, and you have the time.
Yep.
That go-go years. Then you go into the slow-go years, which is where you stay within about 50-mile radius of your house. You're visiting children, grandchildren, really digging in with some of the church charities organizations. And then the last 10 years is really where you don't really leave but a 2 or 3 mile radius. Doctor's appointments, hair appointments, bingo, your friends, family, and you pretty much are in your home because of medical and physical ailments. These are very important things to learn, but here's something that's really important. Logan pulled an article for me. Inmates at prisons learn about personal finance to prep for reentry. So Pennsylvania's Department of Banking and Securities and Pennsylvania's Department of Corrections have decided that they were going to teach inmates full financial planning. Now, they're not going to teach you at school. They're not going to spend time in junior high or high school. Certainly, folks, you know it when you sit in my office. Some of this stuff is real basic, and you go, wow, I never heard that before. It's not that this stuff is new. It just is there. But when and where are people teaching us? You learn it by accident.
Yep.
One of the things I want you to do if you're thinking about retiring is start living like a retiree now. If it's 70% that you think you're going to make in your pension, and then live on a 70%. If it's 80 or 90, it's 90. Why is simple? Because number one is when you retire, you're not going to pay union dues. You're not going to put into your pension. You're not going to pay the same payroll tax because payroll is from your payroll, right? So you might make less money, but you will take home more. Your net will be more. So in that period of time, you got to do the math realistically and honestly, and you might end up with more money at take home. I understand. But if you don't, live like it. At least 3 months. See if you can go eat out. Buy the gifts for your friends, family. Do the things that you're trying to do and enjoy life. If all of that stuff works and you say, well, I could do it, then great. Now you can retire. It's the same thing we talk about when you buy a car.
Right.
I don't mean drive an old car forever because, Arif, that could be $10 million in retirement, my little, Toyota or Honda. Of course not. But understand, if you're going to take on a new debt, $400 a month, for example, fine. I want you to pull $400 from your budget, set it off to the side. Are you still able to live the way you want to live, not go into debt, pay off your debt each month, whatever your normal lifestyle is, as if that $400 payment was going into the car? We're going to live as if. Then 3 months go by, you take a look, oh, I didn't get into more debt. I was still able to enjoy life. I was still able to go out, still able to go to dinner, buy gifts for the holidays or Christmas presents or birthday presents. If you were, great. Well, you know what? Now you're retired. Boom, you're good. Now you can buy a car. But if you can't live that lifestyle, then that $400 a month for the car is just too much money. You have to go backwards and take a look. So live as if. And that's important as well.
And I would say along the way here, while you have, that, as they say, make hay while the sun's out, increase your savings, because now is the time that you can afford to do this. We like to see that if you're starting out saving for retirement at about 5 or 6% is where we'd like to see people starting out in their working years, increasing that by 1% every single year. So last year you saved 5. This year you're going to save 6%, and next year you're going to save 7%. In fact, if you talk to your human resources department and you have a retirement plan at work, they might even do that automatically for you. I know a lot of plans are starting to do that now to help people and promote increasing in their savings.
And I think part of what you would do in that period of time of saving is that every time you get a pay raise, I want you to take half and immediately add it to your retirement savings. Now, you might be maxed out. You might be hitting the cap. Arif, I've already hit there. I'm good. Fantastic. I want you to take half of it, and I want you to put it into a Roth, R-O-T-H, Roth IRA. It's a post-tax money, meaning it's just like the $20 in your purse or your pocket. You've already paid tax on it, but the Roth IRA goes into an account, earns interest. You're not obligated to take it out at age 70 like most other accounts. And believe it or not, you can pass it on to your children. When you take it out, it's not taxable. It doesn't affect your Social Security being taxed. So you are avoiding a lot of the current headache by having a Roth, R-O-T-H, Roth IRA. It's a very wise move, and I like the idea of increasing your savings 1% a year. If you've done all of that, your partner, your spouse is putting money in, and you're still maxed out at everything, then I want you to start considering maybe rental property, or I want you to meet with your financial advisor and think about stocks, other things that might be a little bit higher risk. Great, but we've secured the basics. Your money is safe. We're off to the races.
That's a big deal. Something else you have to really look at is Social Security. And we've heard a number of times that there's a multitude of different claiming options, right? And the biggest question I think that or a hurdle that people face is, do I take it as soon as I'm eligible at age 62? Do I take it at my full retirement age, or do I wait until age 70? Well, the difference between those three, in my example, are really just the amount of money that you're going to claim. Now, if we all knew how long we were going to live, I think we could make a better educated decision and just kind of do the math, solve backwards, and say, okay, I'm better off having taken it earlier or later or somewhere in the middle. You're really going to want to take a look, and again, as to Arif's point, sit with your financial team, your financial advisor, your planner, whomever it is that you entrust with your finances to be kind of your quarterback or your sounding board, and devise a plan so that you don't just one day wake up and go, you know what, I'm 62, I think I want to start taking it, when the plan really would have worked out better had you waited a few more years.
Well, the misconceptions out there are amazing. It seems like I've heard them all, but every once in a while a new one pops up. One of the more common ones is, well, I don't pay taxes anymore after age 65, do I?
Oh my gosh.
Or my Social Security isn't taxed, is it? Those are both wrong, because the laws, the rules have changed over the years. In 1983, when your Social Security when they created a formula to say we're going to pay taxes on this money, they created this formula, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you in 1983 how many people pay taxes on their Social Security, and today how many people pay taxes on their Social Security. And you might be surprised to find out why when we come back. The Total Financial Hour, I'm Arif Halaby, that's Jeff Gerard. Thanks for staying with us. When we return, on your place for news, talk, and information, this is your hometown station, KHTS.
The stress was unbelievable.
Debbie Morris is a changed woman.
A giant boulder's been lifted.
Debbie called Made for You.
I'd finished a day of work.
Professional, residential, and commercial cleaning.
Walk into my house.
Made for You.
It was an absolute pigsty.
Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or even one-time seasonal cleaning.
Our mess kept growing.
255-2922.
Even when we weren't home.
255-2922.
Made for You rescued me.
It's not too late to start your finish at College of the Canyons. They have short-term classes starting in the next few weeks for all kinds of people. People who need weekend classes, people who like photography, people who like rock and roll, stargazers, cartoon lovers, wine enthusiasts, and more. Need flexibility? Check out the online classes they offer. There's never been a better time to start your finish. Visit canyons.edu/class schedule.
First impressions say it all. Choosing the right makeup is critical to that first impression and keeping your skin looking young and healthy. That's why Santa Clarita's Jen Gerard created Gerard Cosmetics. Inspired by women of all ages who gravitate toward classic and timeless beauty with a modern twist, Gerard Cosmetics. Superb quality and pigmentation, along with lip glosses and lipsticks in colors for everyone. The internationally acclaimed Gerard Cosmetics. Discover your new look at GerardCosmetics.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Thanks for listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hey, welcome back to the show, The Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard. All right, we're talking about your family's finances. I said to you before we took a break that Social Security benefits are being taxed now at record levels. Did you know that? Surprise! Here's why. Because they never indexed it for inflation. When Social Security was originally proposed to be taxed, it wasn't before 1983, just so you know. Before 1983, Social Security was not subject to income tax, but everybody wanted that there was a new tax breaks, new tax law that President Reagan was passing, and they said it's only for the rich. We got to tax the rich, and you're only giving the rich benefits. So then people sat around and they said, okay, how do we punish the rich? Right? Isn't that because that's what you do? If we punish the rich, then that's good. So they punish the rich. They say if you make more than a certain amount, you rich people, and you're taking Social Security, then you don't get your Social Security tax-free. You're going to have to pay taxes on it. So everybody else gets it tax-free. About 10% of you have to pay taxes. All right, so here's the number. Are you ready for this? It's pretty insane. Today, the taxation hits almost everyone. Almost everyone. We are 90% plus. If you are a single person and you earn $32,000, sorry, if you're a single person and you earn $25,000 a year, then you have to pay income tax on your Social Security. If you're a married couple and you earn $32,000 a year, you have to pay taxes on your Social Security. So what should it be if they index it just for inflation? It should be that it would be if you were single and you earned about $62,000 a year. That's when you should pay taxes on your Social Security. That's equivalent to in 1983, the 25. Today, the $32,000 bracket should be raised to $79,000. But when the left gets all excited about any tax breaks, Ronald Reagan passed a huge tax bill that was fantastic, except they had to raise taxes somewhere in order to, quote, pay for it. As if you taking my money and then giving it back to me is a favor. Give me my money back.
Well, you also have to look at, let's just say Social Security is a big bucket of money. It's not. And they were paying out less people many, many years ago. Now people are living longer, as we've talked about. Now more money, there's more outlay coming from this quote-unquote bucket of dollars. The liabilities are higher. They have to pay more people. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. But, again, it goes back to why didn't we fix this 20 years ago?
Yeah, and can you imagine for a minute what 10 years from now is going to be?
Yeah.
If we don't fix this now, And listen, everybody wants to blame tax cut. Every time there's a tax cut and then there's a problem 5 or 10 years later, that's the reason that there was a problem. As if giving the government more money would solve the problem. We gave them the lotto money. You remember that, Californians? It's for the children. It's for schools.
Yeah.
After Prop 13, schools were suffering. They shut down schools. I remember some of the schools in the San Fernando Valley were shut down, elementary schools. They built too many of them in the 70s. Late 70s, they started shutting them down. So in the 80s, they passed this thing called the lotto. It's going to help the children. It's for the children. And the bureaucrats in the state of California, when $1 million came in from the lotto, instead of increasing the budget $1 million, what they did is they took $1 million from the regular budget and they used it somewhere else. So today, when they tell you the gasoline tax is for the roads, they are not telling the truth. When they tell you that the measure M or X or Y or whatever they're going to do next for the College of the Canyons, it's for the children, do not believe them. But Arif, there's safeguards, there's independent studies. Then explain to me why the leadership there makes thousands of dollars a day. How is it? Oh, I don't know. What is that? $5,000 a week? The chancellor, superintendent, grand poobah, whatever they changed the name as if it matters. Like, oh, well, I was just paying me more money. Why? Because I'm a chancellor of the supreme superintendent world. $1,000 a day. And you have a single mom who can't afford to go to nursing school at any other place except there. And they say, sorry, there just isn't any more room. Sorry. Have heart. Donate, I don't know, $50,000. Hire one teacher, one part-time nursing school teacher, so that you can get 25 more new nurses whose families can now have a job, who can provide for their children, who can get off welfare, who can get off any government assistance, who can be taxpayers. Wouldn't that be great? And instead, we're paying the top group of people. They're vice presidents and assistant imaginary vice presidents and executive assistants to the manager of superintendents. $800 a day, $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day for what? Oh, Arif, you don't understand. They brought in all sorts of money. I got it. So you go tell that to the single mom. You tell it to her. You can do it with a straight face, man. You've got more guts than I do. Because they're going to tax more of your Social Security. They're going to tax more, and you're going to have a plan B. Because you cannot count on the government for your retirement. Some of it probably will be there. Maybe half. I don't know. But somebody has to watch out for you. Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. Every week at this time. I always get a little work for you. Nobody cares. Oh, Arif, that's so. Listen, you are going to take care of you and your family more than anybody else. We are all nice people. We care. But not as much as you. So take care of you and your family. Thanks for joining us. Total Financial Hour every week at this time on your hometown station. This is KHTS. I'm Arif Halaby. Thanks for being with us.